Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about finding percents. Alright, so as we said a few videos ago, a percent is a part of 100. So if you're trying to take the percent of a number, the easiest way to do that is to change the percent to a decimal and to multiply. For example, if we're trying to find 40% of 80, all we have to do is change 40% to a decimal, and we know that 40% is 40 out of 100. 40 hundredths is 0.40. So we take that and we multiply by our number, which is 80 in this case. And so 0.40 times 80 is going to give us 32, and that's our answer. Now, another way that we can do this is we can identify parts and wholes and use equivalent fractions to find your missing part or whole. So some hints here. We have the word is. This is associated with the part. And we have the word of, and that's typically associated with the whole. So that's how you can find this. So if you're told find 40% of 80, you can write it as an is of question. Instead of saying find 40% of 80, you can say, well, what is 40% of 80? They mean the exact same thing. And so we know that we're always going to have this setup. We're going to have the percent out of 100. So the 100's always going to stay there. And then that's going to equal the part over the whole. So we know what the percent is. We know it's 40. So this becomes 40, I'm just replacing the percent sign with 40, out of 100 is equal to the part. So part is associated with the word is, and we don't know what the part is. That's what is the part. So we're going to put a question mark where the part should be, and 80 is after the word of, so that's going to be our whole. All right. And so now we just work with equivalent fractions here. We say, okay, well, 100 times what is 80? We need to do the same thing to the top. Whatever that number is, we need to multiply it by top and bottom. But, 100 times what is 80? Well, I'm not sure what that is, so we have to do 80 divided by 100 to see what that missing number is. So 80 divided by 100 is 0.80, and so that's our missing number. Turns out that 100 times 0.80 is 80, so I do the same thing at the top, and 40 times 0.80 is indeed 32, and that we confirmed with our first method. So let's try some other examples. What is 80% of 10? So let's put our setup. Let's do our setup first. We have percent over 100 equals part over whole. So what is going to go in the place of our percent sign? That's going to be 80, right? Because we have 80%. So I'll replace that here with 80. And so we're asking what is. So again, we're looking for the missing part. So that's going to be our question mark here. And our whole is the number after of, typically. So our whole in this case is going to be 10. All right, and so we can see on the bottom, 100 times what is 10? Well, to figure out what that is, you do 10 divided by 100, and that's going to give you 0.10. So 100 times 0.10 on top and bottom to get that missing question mark. So 80 times 0.10 is going to be 8, and that is our answer. All right, 80 times 0.10. So our answer is 8. You could also do 0.80 times 10, right? 80%, we just change it to a decimal and multiply, and that's also going to give you 8. Okay? Let's try number 2. So number 2, it says, what is 50% of 40? All right, or what is half of 40? We know that to be 20. Let's prove that with equivalent fractions. So we have percent out of 100 equals part over whole. So our percent is 50. We're trying to find out what 50% of 40 is. So I'll replace this with 50. And after of is the word 40, or is the number 40, so that's going to be my whole. And I'm looking for my part. What is my part? So I'm going to replace part with a question mark. Okay, so on the bottom, 100 times what is 40? I need to do the same thing at the top to get my answer. And to figure out what that magic number is, we can simply do 40 divided by 100 to give me 0.40. So I need to do the same thing at the top and bottom. So 50 times 0.40 is going to give us 20. And that makes sense, right? Half of 40 is indeed 20. So that's our answer there. All right, so number 3, what percent of 20 is 5? So I'm going to set up how I usually do. Percent over 100 equals part over whole. So what percent of 20, so what comes after of is 20, so that's going to be my whole. And what comes after is 5, so that's going to be my part. And I'm looking for the percent, right? It says what percent? I don't know what the percent is. So instead of the percent sign, I'm going to put a question mark right here. Now, I like to work with the question mark on the right, as we could see from the previous examples. So I'm just going to switch these around real quick so that we know, what we need to multiply by and so forth. Okay, so if I switch these around, I get 5 over 20 equals question mark out of 100. And this one's not too bad. You don't have to do any division tricks to figure it out, or you can if you want, it doesn't matter. But on the bottom, we can see, well, 20 times 5 is going to be 100, so I need to do the same thing at the top. So 5 times 5 is going to be 25, and that's our answer. So what percent of 20 is 5? Our answer is 25%, right? Because it was in the percent spot. Let's try another one. 20% of what number is 40? Okay, so we have our usual setup, percent over 100 equals part over whole. And I'm given 20%, so that's going to go, 20 is going to go in place of my percent sign there. And what's my part and my whole? Well, what comes after of is what number? So that's going to be my question mark. Right? Of is, after of comes the whole. So the question mark is going where my whole should be, right here. And then my part is going to be the number that comes after is, which is 40. So this time we're looking for something on the bottom, all right? So on top, we can see that 20 times 2 is 40. So we do the same thing at the bottom. 100 times 2 on the bottom is 200, and that's our answer. So 20% of 200 is 40. That's our answer there. Okay. All right, let's do some more practice. I encourage you to pause the video at this point and try these on your own. See if you can do these. So the first one is, what is 25% of 90? So let's do our setup. Percent over 100 equals part over whole. We have our percent. Our percent is 25. So we'll replace the percent sign with that. And of, after of comes 90. So that's going to be my whole. And we're looking for the missing part. So I'll put a question mark where the part should be. All right, so 100 times what is 90? Well, 90 divided by 100 is 0.90 or 0.9. So I have to multiply top and bottom by 0.9. Okay. So let's do that. So 25 times 0.9 or 0.90 is 22.5. So that's my answer. So 25 times 0.90 is 22.5. What is 25% of 90? 22.5. Okay. What percent of 50 is 18? Let's do our setup. Percent out of 100 equals part out of whole. Okay, so what comes after of is our whole. That's 50. So 50 goes in place of whole. What comes after is my part. So that's 18. And we're looking for the percent. So it says what percent. So we're looking for this percent sign, so I'll replace that with a question mark. And as I said before, I like to work with the question mark on the right side. So I'm just going to switch the order around here to be 18 out of 50 is equal to question mark out of 100. Now what we can see is on the bottom I have to multiply 50 by 2 to get 100, so I do the same thing at the top. And I end up getting 36 as my part, and that's my answer. So what percent of 50 is 18? 36% of 50. So our answer here is 36% since we were in that percent spot. Okay? Next one, what is 10% of 65? So 10%, we have percent out of 100 equals part over whole. Always the same setup. Now, what goes in place of my percent is the 10, because it's 10%. Let's go ahead and replace that here with a 10. And after the word of is 65, so that's my whole. And I'm looking for my part, so I'll put a question mark there. Okay? So on the bottom, 100 times what is 65? Well, to do that, you can do 65 divided by 100, and that's going to give you 0.65. So I have to multiply top and bottom by 0.65 to get my answer. So 10 times 0.65 is going to be 6.5. That is my answer here. What is 10% of 65? That's going to be 6.5. All right, let's try this last one. 120% of what number is 90? So again, same setup. Percent out of 100 equals part over whole. So percent is 120, so I'll replace that with 120. After is 90, so that's my part. After is part, after of is whole. So we have 90, and we're looking for our whole. Of what number? Of what number? So we're going to put a question mark where whole is. Okay? So now we can see on top, 120 times what is 90? Well, 90 divided by 120, let's see what that is. That's going to give us 0.75. So I need to multiply top and bottom by 0.75. All right, so 100 times 0.75 is going to be 75. That's our answer. So 120% of 75 is 90. All right. Let's try some word problems. So Deborah donated 15% of her babysitting earnings to charity. If Deborah earned $95 in babysitting, how much did she donate? Okay, so let's start this off with percent out of 100 equals part out of whole. And we need to figure out what our part, our whole, and our percent is. So since our percent, we're donating 15% of the earnings to charity, that's going to be our percent. So we can replace the percent sign with 15. And so what is the part? What are we looking for? Well, we're trying to figure out what that part is. The total amount is the whole, and she earned a total amount of $95. So even though there's no is and ofs, you can still figure out what the whole is based on the context of the problem. So the whole is the total amount she earned in this case, and we're looking for the part that corresponds to 15%. So we're looking for the part, so I'll put a question mark there. And as we can see on bottom, 100 times what is 95? Well, 95 divided by 100 is 0.95. So I need to multiply top and bottom by 0.95. And 15 times 0.95 is going to be 14.25. So therefore, I'll do 3 dots to indicate therefore, she donated $14.25 to charity. That is 15% of her paycheck, of her whole $95 earned. All right, so let's try another one. 3 out of, okay, there's that word of, 5 games in Lynn's video game collection are sports games. What percentage? All right, so let's do our setup. Percentage out of 100 equals part out of whole. Now, I know that I'm looking for my percentage, so I know that the question mark needs to go where the percent sign is. What percentage? Now, our whole comes after the word of, and after the word of is 5. So that's 5, and so my part has to be the other number, which is 3. 3 out of 5. All right, so now, again, I like the question mark to be on the right side, so I'm going to just switch this around to be 3 out of 5 equals question out of 100. Now, on bottom, 5 times what is 100? That's going to be 5 times 20. You can do the division trick if you'd like, if you don't know that off the cuff. So we do the same thing at the top. So 3 times 20 is going to be 60. So my answer here is 60%, right? Because my question mark was where the percent sign was. So 60% of the game collection is sports. That's my answer there. All right, so there are 29 students in Evan's class. 9 students handed in their permission slips on time. Approximately what percentage? There it is again. What percentage of Evan's class handed in their slips on time? So again, same setup. Percent out of 100 equals part out of whole. Now we're looking for the percentage. It says what percentage? So I'm going to replace this percent sign with a question mark. So there are 29 students and 9 students handed in their permission slips. And we're looking for the percentage of the people of the class that handed in the permission slip. So in the entire class, that's the whole, is the entire class. The whole is going to be 29, right? Because there's a total of 29 students in the class. So I'm going to replace whole with 29. And the part is going to be the number of students that handed in their slip on time. And that's going to be 9. So I'll just do that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it. So the question mark over 100 is on the right side. So I have 9 out of 29 equals question mark out of 100. And what I can do to the bottom, 29 times what is 100? Well, 100 divided by 29 is going to be, it's going to be approximately, I'm just doing approximates here, 3.4, okay? So I'll multiply top and bottom by 3.4. That's just an approximate answer. So 9 times 3.4 is going to be 30.6. And that is our answer. Keep in mind, we were originally looking for a percent up here. So it's going to be 30.6% of the students handed in their permission slip on time. Let's do one more. So Jackson received requests for 150 tickets for his art show. The number of requests was 120% of, here's that key word, of the number of tickets he had. How many tickets did he have? So we're looking for the thing after of, which is the whole, right? So we have, again, our same setup, percent out of 100 equals part out of whole. And our percent we can see is 120. That's 120% there. So I'll just replace the percent sign with 120. And the part is going to be, we're looking for the whole. So right, because it comes after of. How many tickets did he have? That's what we're looking for. So we're looking for the whole. And the part is going to be 150. You received requests for 150 tickets. The number of requests was 120% of the number of tickets he had. What is the number of tickets he had? We're looking for the whole, okay? So on the top, we want to know 120 times what is 150 so that we can do the same thing at the bottom. And to figure out what that magic number is, we just have to do 150 divided by 120. And we get 1.25. So I'll multiply top and bottom by 1.25. And I get 125 on the bottom. So that's my answer. How many tickets did he have? He had 125 tickets.